Let me be clear. I feel within my gut at least 90% that Kamala Harris will win the presidency outright. And my gut also tells me that in the swing states, she will win them all. I am looking at the data, and while the data shows that she's winning more than she's losing, and also based on the current polls that you see at New York Times, assuming it has some modicum of reality, it shows that she would win the Electoral College with over 270 votes. That is what it's showing as of today, as of when I'm doing this post on the New York Times website. That said, I think that the polls today are so scared of what happened in 2016 that they are overestimating Trump's real support. Moreover, I also think that the polls are not taking the women's vote, the women's rage, the women's acknowledgement of the loss of their agencies to their own bodies. I mean, when you start to take a right from somebody, they react. And we have examples of that where whenever abortion and reproductive rights was placed on the reddest state, all the polls turned out to be wrong by many points. So that's where I think things are. I believe much more so than not, in my gut feeling, 90%, that she wins the whole damn thing on the swing states. And I think some surprising states as well. Now, as a host, as a activist journalist, I think it is prudent for me to also state that those in the activism realm that make sure or promote political activity to ensure the best for the American people, to ensure that we don't move into a place we don't want to move to fascism, etc. I think we must be ready for all possibilities. And that means creating structures that are devoid of the internet, structures that are devoid of email, structures that are devoid of what we think of right now as social networking online. And I'll explain what I mean. Donald Trump hasn't won. Donald Trump has made a threat to those who oppose him. He considers them enemies from within. And it is clear that he would act on those issues. And many cowardly billionaires and newspapers have already begun to react. We have the Washington Post that now have always endorsed the candidate, decided that, as I understand, they had endorsed Kamala Harris, but they are denied to endorse this year by their owner. And I think that's Jeff Bezos. Likewise, we have El Señor, I don't remember the name of the owner of the LA Times. The LA Times also came out in support of or to endorse Kamala Harris. They were not allowed to put that out. So we already see the control of our media changing, the control of our media acquiescing to Donald Trump, the former rapist in chief, thug in chief, whatever you may want to call him. So we see these structures acquiescing to him. So when I say that we have to be ready with structures, it's because we have one of the major ways we communicate, whether it be on X, controlled by Elon Musk. He could ensure that doesn't work as it should as an entity of communication. We also have Facebook, controlled by another billionaire who could also acquiesce to Trump and start to throttle any work that we would do. The same could apply with Google and YouTube, which could control or throttle our videos or means of communication through that platform. And then just basic emails, because things like the domain name servers, etc., can be messed with by these big media providers, whether it be Verizon, whomever is controlling that infrastructure. So we have to have that alternate network to think about. And it's something that we ought to think about whether or not we're successful. because we are now so reliant on the internet as a means of communications. And I remember in the past stating that the internet would be the great equalizer, but in an internet controlled by just a few creates the same issues we've always had with small entities controlling the flow of information and not and implicitly not allowing the collective to work together for the betterment of all of us. So I will repeat. I expect Kamala Harris to win. But if there are shenanigans, or if for some reason my gut or some of our guts is not correct, we ought to be thinking of alternatives. And what are the alternatives? One of the alternatives is going to be having to ensure we have spokes or centers. When I say centers, I mean a person or persons or an organization in just about every precinct or conglomeration of precincts around the country that can have a means of communication. We also have to think about establishing a simple radio network. I'm not talking about networks that can be controlled by the corporate entities, but I'm talking about regular, maybe ham radios that can have a relay, a system of relay for communication. We are going to this may sound odd, but in these times, we have to realize that while the internet has been a blessing for putting information out there, a controlled internet can actually limit the way we move information, limit the way we communicate, or even corrupt the information that we are talking about. So it is time. We're about 10 days, 9 days out from the election. It is time for those of us in the activism realm, whether that be activist journalism or the activists on the streets, etc. We have to start thinking about the structures that we would use if there's an eventuality of a fascist taking over this country, either by force or less likely through an election. But again, it is that time. We have to start thinking about alternate methods of communications, alternate methods of engagement, other methods of bringing the collective, all of us together. And it's going to have to be through systems that are decentralized and not based on the internet controlled by a few billionaires or the social media controlled by a few billionaires. So folks, what do you think? Give me your thoughts. Let's start somewhere as far as organizing. I know one thing. I will be heading over to either score one of these places and getting me a handheld radio that's independent of the cellular network and independent of the internet that uses regular broadband waves. So anyway, folks, tell me what you think. I really want to hear what you got to say about this.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.